President Trump says he, quote, would love to deport what he calls homegrown criminals to El Salvador. That means Americans, people born in the United States. This is what he told Fox's Spanish language channel.
Could we use it for violent criminals, our own violent criminals?
I call them homegrown criminals.
Yes.
I mean, the
homegrowns.
The ones that grew up and something went wrong and they hit people over the head with a baseball bat. We have, and push people into subways just before the train gets there, like you see happening sometimes. We are looking into it and we want to do it. I would love to do that.
Let's get ready to CNN's Alayna Treene at the White House. The president seemed eager to talk about that after floating that a couple days ago.
That's right. I mean, what's been clear is the president has now brought this up repeatedly. It's also something he actually had mentioned earlier this year, a few months ago, but it wasn't taken as seriously then. A lot of people thought it was just, some comment that would never actually come to fruition. But what is clear this week is how seriously the president is considering it, not only because he is directing his team to look into the legality of it, but he brought that up on Monday in the Oval Office while meeting with El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. He would be the one, Bukele, who would be accepting these, quote unquote, homegrown criminals, as the president likes to refer to it. But again, a key question here is this even legal? We know that many legal experts argue this is entirely unconstitutional, that United States citizens, whether they commit crimes or not, must remain in the U.S. So this is something that is very puzzling to a lot of people. But we did hear the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt address some of this yesterday, particularly the fact that the president is going to be looking into whether or not this is legally possible. Listen.
It's a legal question that the president is looking into. He would only consider this, if legal, for Americans who are the most violent, egregious, repeat offenders of crime, who nobody in this room wants living in their communities.
Now, John, part of the reason I think this is so concerning to some legal experts and opponents of this idea is in part because of what we are seeing play out, of course, which Caitlin was just laying out with this man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the one who was sent to El Salvador and the Supreme Court ordered to the Trump administration to facilitate its return. Really, we are seeing this be the closest thing that the Trump administration is really defying from the Supreme Court. That's part of why I think this is such a big part of the conversation right now, and questions of whether or not the administration is willing to move forward with this, because again, they are fighting a lot of these legal battles, particularly as it relates to immigration.
All right, Alayna Treene at the White House for us this morning. Thank you so much for that.
President Trump has started to float the idea of saying he is interested in even the possibility of deporting U.S. citizens to El Salvador to serve U.S. criminal sentences. I mean, the way he talks about it is homegrown violent criminals. Let me play what he said.
If it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people.
He says he's instructed the Attorney General to study this. Tom Homan, the border czar, was asked about this. He says that they're going to study it as well. Is there something to study?
No, there is not, Kate. If he is talking about taking American citizens who've been convicted of crimes and imprisoning them overseas, and it does sound like that's what he means, I will tell you right now what they or anyone will find. That is flatly, entirely, completely and flagrantly unconstitutional. And if he were to try that, I promise you he will lose 9-0 in the Supreme Court. Justices Thomas and Alito and Gorsuch will reject that. So let's hope this is just talk. Let's hope this is just rhetoric. Let's hope the Attorney General comes back with the correct answer, which is absolutely not.
So one thing the president keeps on talking about, but from a legal perspective is likely just words said out loud, noise meant to distract, is floating the idea of sending American criminals, U.S. citizens, what he calls homegrown criminals, overseas, to prisons overseas or in other countries like the one in El Salvador.
The El Salvadorian president said it was preposterous for him to bring back Garcia because it would be akin to bringing a terrorist over the border. What's even more preposterous, I would say, is that type of statement. You have this Eighth Amendment right, against cruel and unusual punishments. You have due process. There's a decision, Valentine versus the United States, that dealt with in 1930s, American citizens going back to France for extradition to face criminal charges. That's hogwash, it's garbage, it's bogus. It would never happen. That is not the rule of law. And it's even disgusting to insinuate it, and arguably terrible just to be silent on it. It shouldn't happen. That you're looking into this rule of law and whether or not you can do it, it's really ridiculous and frightening, but it would never go that far.
It may not take long to look into. In other words,
it should not.
Jeremy Salan, thank you so much for all of this.
To a remarkable story about a US citizen who's also an immigration lawyer getting a pretty alarming email from the Department of Homeland Security. This is what Nicole Micharoni received last Friday. The email begins with the words, "It's time for you to leave the United States." It goes on to say, DHS is terminating your parole. Do not attempt to remain in the United States. The federal government will find you. Please depart the United States immediately. Experts say that removing American citizens from the US is clearly illegal. Homeland Security says the email was sent by mistake, but it's still deeply concerning. Nicole Micharoni joins us now live from Boston. Nicole, great to have you with us. It's a pretty alarming letter to receive. What was your initial reaction when you read this?
It is an alarming letter to receive. My initial reaction was that it was not for me. It was for a client. I opened the email looking for a client's name or some case information, and it took a few moments before I realized that that wasn't there, and the email was addressed to me, and there was nobody else that it could have been sent to.
So from what we understand, DHS has said this was sent in error. Does that mean you do not have to leave the United States in 7 days, or they will find you? Because that is, as I quote from the letter they sent.
Whether or not it was sent in error, I do not have to leave the United States in 7 days. I am a U.S. citizen. I was never granted parole. I don't need parole as a U.S. citizen, so this email should not apply to me, and I was not planning on leaving the United States. However, it is very concerning that it was sent to me.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, getting that warning and the language that was used. But this is pretty indicative of what other people that are in these situations are getting. Are any of your clients getting warnings right now, and how are you dealing with it? What kind of legal recourse can you take?
Yes, a few of my clients are getting warnings right now. I've also heard from a lot of other people that have gotten warnings like this. As far as legal recourse goes, it depends on the individual person receiving this email. Some people entered on parole that got it and have another lawful means of staying here. A lot of them are waiting for court dates before an immigration judge. A lot of them have applications for another form of status pending. Some of them have already been granted a different form of status. There's also people that received this email that were not admitted on parole and are U.S. citizens. I'm not the only one. Or other people in some other form of status that have the right to remain in the United States.
Well, Nicole, what is concerning is that you are a U.S. citizen. You were born in the United States. You received this. It was an error. That's what they've said. The point is, these mistakes seem to be happening. And notable, Abrego Garcia is currently stuck in El Salvador, which, by the way, they've admitted to be an error. How concerned are you that these mistakes could happen and then upend people's lives and instill fear, whether you're an immigrant or a U.S. citizen?
I'm very concerned about that. Abrego Garcia is a great example. The government has also admitted that that's an administrative error. And these administrative errors keep happening, and they really impact people. Deportation is a serious consequence of these sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, and notable for me is that there is no will to bring him back into the United States. Going forward and seeing cases like this emerging, and you spoke about legal recourse, what are the legal channels that could be pursued? Frankly, the United States is a bastion of justice. That's how it's viewed around the world. But I think that perception is now being questioned.
Yes. So in immigration proceedings, deportation is generally something that happens via an immigration court. I've been telling people that generally they have the right to see an immigration judge. This email is not a requirement that you self-deport within 7 days. There are oftentimes other options. And immigration law here is really complicated, so people need to talk to somebody that understands the legal system and can go through their individual options.
So Nicole, quickly, tell me what your clients are telling you, what you're hearing, the fear, the worry, the concern.
So over the last few months, there's definitely been a big increase in people that are afraid. Our office has been getting calls that we've never gotten before. There are U.S. citizens calling us that are afraid to travel. There are students calling us that are afraid to travel. Everybody that's here on any type of visa or lawful permanent residence, they're all very concerned and worried about how the immigration crackdown is going to impact them.
Nicole Mascheroni, great to have you on. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.